Joining you now is Ian James. We've got a partnership here on stage next. Ian James is the Principal Aboriginal Mental Health Advisor for Mental Health Strategy and Planning and the Office of the Chief Psychiatrist, South Australian Health. He's worked in mental health for the past 14 years. He's a proud descendant of the First Peoples of the River Murray and Mallee region and Southern Arrernte of Central Australia. And joining Ian, I'm pleased to say, is Robert Leidig. He's a proud Ramanjeri man from South Australia, born on the ancestral lands of the Bangala, Nukunu peoples in Port Augusta, now living on gorgeous Kaurna country. He is the founder and CEO of a not-for-profit charity organisation called the National Indigenous Network Initiative, and NINI, or NINI, N-I-N-I, and has worked across justice and housing and homelessness and mental health, leading programs across South Australia, the Northern Territory, and across the APY lands. His vision is to transform trauma, to improve mental health and foster self-care, healing and connection. Please welcome to the stage Ian and Robert. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Ian James, and I won't go through my title again and introduction. That was really well done. And this is Rob. I'll let you introduce yourself, Rob.
Yeah, hello everyone. Robert Leidig, as our MC just mentioned. Just before we get into it too, that was a beautiful stretch. I'm nice and relaxed now. I was a little bit stressed earlier. But just before we get into it, just to fill the room, can we just get some hands up? How many people in the room identify as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander? Fantastic. How many live and work in Adelaide? And how many are from interstate or overseas? Wow. And how many needed 2 coffees and that stretching this morning? Fantastic.
I didn't do the stretching, though. No. Okay. First of all, we'll go past that one. First of all, like most of our ways that we do things out of cultural respect is to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands that we meet on today, which is the Kaurna people, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We also would like to pay our respects to people with lived experience and living experience. Their input into the system design of mental health and wellbeing is very vital, and to make sure that we are well supported across all age groups. So I guess the reason why Rob and I are up here presenting, and I dragged Rob up basically because he is the CEO of NINI, but he is also the lead for the Aboriginal Mental Health or Aboriginal Social and Emotional Wellbeing Centre, which we'll go into a little bit. The centre is actually the first of its kind in this country. It actually it's designed to support Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander people in South Australia around their mental health and wellbeing. And it's also all of age, which is the only model that we believe of its kind in this country. It's designed to actually support community members who are dealing with mental illness and their well-being from a very early age to their older people. So basically from birth to death, in a sense. It's that continuous care model that we are been talking about for many years. We've been talking about the holistic approach to mental health and wellbeing, and I believe that the centre that we've designed through its model of care and through its, knowledge of culture, which is the core basis of what the centre is designed to do, is to use the knowledge and understanding of 60,000 years of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander culture to actually support and improve Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders' mental health and wellbeing. And as it says on the board, the reality is that the past keeps asserting itself as it leaves echoes, ripples for you to see if you look. Most Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people go to mainstream services. Unfortunately, most of those mainstream services have very little cultural understanding of why they're attending their services in the first place. They either have some kind of knowledge or they choose not to understand the reasoning why they are actually attending their service. The centre actually is drawing on that knowledge, drawing on their culture, drawing on their experience, and drawing on the continuous intergenerational trauma that has been affected Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people for centuries. And I think it's very important for us to be very aware that we, as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, still are out, or still have high rates of suicide, mental health presentations across the board, no matter what age it is. Usually it's the youth, to be quite honest, that have the highest impact. We have had recently a number of passings in our country area in South Australia where, unfortunately, you know, they're all preventable. These deaths should never have occurred if the supports were in place in the first place. Now, most of the time, our communities have very little knowledge of what services are around in their country or metro space. And a lot of them, too, do not want to go from one place to the next. We don't support them in that sense. We don't provide the opportunity for them to get the wellness or the care that we all expect to get if we go into a mental health or wellbeing service. So this centre was based on all of that. This centre was based on the lack of support for communities. This centre was based on the lack of Aboriginal engagement in services. And this centre was based on building up our own workforce to actually improve our outcomes across the board. So I'm going to stop talking and let Rob talk now.
That microphone there. Hello? Oh, look out. Thanks, Ian. As well, I just want to say how honoured NINI, the National Indigenous Network Initiative, is to lead the very first all-aged Aboriginal social and emotional wellbeing and mental health centre in the country. We're Aboriginal community controlled, we're Aboriginal community led. We listen to the voices of our mob. We gongen, we listen. And we see them, we knuckin' them. It's very important. We're not into correction, we're into connection. That's how we roll. Couple of things. Myself, I'm a narrative therapist. I love narrative therapy. Part-time existentialist, part-time logotherapist. I'm sure you all know what that stuff is. But for me, when we look at decolonising mental health, we use many culturally safe modalities. The social and emotional, the National Strategic Framework for SUB is really important. It provides a roadmap. I want to acknowledge all the work that Brother Ian has put in to developing our model of care. 12 plus years of community yarns and connections to shape this beautiful vision. And in terms of we use these culturally safe modalities is I and the team use a lot of narrative. And for those who know narrative, there are two key positions, statement of position map 1, statement of position map 2. And the first thing we need to do is we need to identify and name the problem. Because I'll tell you what, there's a big problem. Big problem. And then we need to figure out what the effects of that problem are. And the effects for our mob are really big. And that's why we're into transformation and reauthoring the problem story to the preferred story. We need to look at Western models for a lot of our mob don't fit. We're about justice as well as therapy and healing. As we all know, you can't medicate away the impacts of racism. You can't medicate the impacts of poverty. You can't medicate the impacts of dispossession. We need to look at these social determinants of health. We need to look at the past in order to deal with the present and the future. I might leave it there, brother.
So actually, I'll go back. So with what Rob was talking about is basically what we're trying to do is reconstruct how we do mental health and wellbeing for our own mob, for our own communities. And that's basically understanding those impacts, those intergenerational traumas, the history of centuries of colonisation, the impact of drugs and alcohol, dispossession, racism, language barriers, everything that you can think of that don't affect you, but may affect Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And that effect actually then impacts them and their family and their community through the situations that they find themselves in, but none of their fault. None of their fault. They weren't put into missions, they weren't kicked off their land, they weren't told to stop speaking their language when they went into these missions and reserves. None of their fault. But the impact that they are now having and continuously to have is seen as their fault. And so we try to develop a model or a plan to actually support them in their journey, to support them to understand that we understand that this has been an issue and continuous issue. So what can we do to support them? And the basis of the Wellbeing Centre is actually the culture. We try to really draw on the culture and its strengths, its knowledge and its traditions. We find ourselves now today with a lot of influences outside of our own, particularly our Aboriginal youth and children, child and youth, and this goes across all boards, all races. But the impact that we find ourselves in with our child and youth is that they think they've lost their way, they have lost their cultural understanding, they've lost their cultural identity. And the centre actually is trying to incorporate that or instill that, I guess, the understanding of what culture is, making them proud, basically, of being an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, understanding that their lineage goes past 60,000 years plus. So being really proud of who they are, standing up to who they are, is a very important aspect of why this Wellbeing Centre is actually being developed. We got 20 minutes left?
5 minutes left.
So, like most things, we've got a script, but we're actually way off it at the moment.
Who needs it?
Who needs it? Just ad-lib everything. So back in 2022, and I'll go back onto this script a bit, the South Australian Government entered into a state mental health bilateral agreement with the Commonwealth. Out of that agreement, $10 million was set aside or put up to establish the Aboriginal Mental Health and Wellbeing Centre. So this didn't start in 2022. This started 10 or years or 12 years before that, with a lot of discussions, a lot of community engagement. Because we talked a lot about having that co-design. We talk a lot about having Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander understanding and having input into how a service should look like and how well it will be supported by them. And so from the early stages, and I must admit, when I first began this journey, I really struggled to see where an Aboriginal person could actually go and get well supported in their mental health and wellbeing in this state. I really struggled to work out, well, I know there is a lot of issues, where do they go? How can they be well supported? I found models in WA which I really kind of stole their model when I went and visited them. They were very supportive. I said, look, this is what I want to do in SA. They said, here's a model that you can probably base it on. I said, thank you very much. Put it in my bag. Caught the next flight out. But they were very generous. They were very generous in their knowledge, very generous in their information and sharing, and I really respected them for that. And the model that we've based our Aboriginal social and emotional wellbeing is basically on that model, because it was a well-coordinated statewide service, which basically, and I'm going to get to my page actually, I'm going to flip all the script actually, because I think it's around emphasising the significance of Aboriginal culture and understanding. With that in mind, we did a lot of those consultations, and we did that across 5 country sites, including Mount Gambier, Port Augusta, Whyalla, Port Lincoln and the APY lands. And we did 6 metro workshops across Central Adelaide, Southern Adelaide, Northern Adelaide, Western Adelaide. We included 2 key cohorts, which was the LGBTIQ community, our rainbow community, who really struggle with their identity, who struggle with trying to get the right service for them, and our child and youth. Was a very big important part of why we wanted to develop a service. I think that over the years of rewriting, I'm up to my probably 14th version of the model of care, because unfortunately you just cannot keep on saying, okay, here's 3 versions, that'll do. This is a growing document. It's always going to be changed. And I think it's important for us to adapt to the changes and the needs of our community, because the model of care aligns itself with primary health care services, GPs, allied health, etc. It's entering into MOUs with government and non-government agencies to embed better and open communication, partnerships and pathways to make sure that there is a clear, continuous pathway for our mob from an early age to the end age. And I think that's important, because we've had feedback that Aboriginal people get very disillusioned with services if they have to go from one place to the next, continuously. And I don't just mean mental health, I mean drug and alcohol, housing, education, all those so forth. And I mean, no, that's no different to any other community, I think. It's no different to any other race, but it's more, I think, identified as an issue within our own community, because if they don't show up, they will never show up. So this centre is trying to make sure that they do show up, stay in the service, until they're ready to turn away and say, I don't need you anymore, but we'll always be there to make sure that they get the support that they need. I'll let you have a yarn now.
We have to make it quick, brother.
I have no idea where we are.
We're probably going to wrap it up directly. But just, I suppose, a couple of other quick things. So our interim service model is already underway. I didn't make mention that Nini has also 2 amazing partners. One is Sonda, and our other partner is Oars Community Transitions. Nini is the lead of that consortium, and we will be fully operational around March, April next year, based in Adelaide CBD. I'm happy to leave some of my business cards out the front, or jump on the Nini website and reach out to me. I'd love to have a yarn. We're about collaboration. We can't do this on our own. We're big on partnerships, informal and formal. And if you have any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander, we refer to our mob as guests, not clients, not consumers. They're guests. And in terms of some of that stuff, we're always learning as well. We don't have all the answers, so we want to do this together. That'll be great. I think just from me, before I hand over to Ian in closing, is, again, we're not into reinventing wheels, but we are about community leadership, and we are about Aboriginal leadership, and we're about systemic reform. It's very difficult to change systems that have been around for a very long time. And the beauty of this, and we've got the full support of SA Health, the state and Commonwealth governments, is this is innovative, this is creative, this is led by a community. And we greet our mob, we say, who you mob, where you from? That's that identity. And a lot of our mob in this SUB and mental health space, they don't know who they are. And they don't know where they're from. And they don't know what their hopes and dreams are. And they don't know that pain is actually normal, it's a part of life. And we're not into fixing all of this, we're into building the resilience of our mob. So that's some of the exciting things we're doing. Reach out to me, I'll get back to you, I always do. Not straight away, but...
He does eventually.
I do eventually.
He does eventually. So, in conclusion, and I must apologise, I've done this a few times, and every time I do it, I go totally off script. And I should never even put a PowerPoint presentation together, to be quite honest. I just stand up here with a microphone. So, in conclusion, it's taken a long time for us to get to where we are today. We've got a strong Aboriginal NGO who are going to lead this wellbeing centre. All the pressure is now on Nini, Sonda and Oars. We've done the background work, we've done the model of care, the philosophy of care, all the structured stuff. We are hoping that the centre will be in its site in March next year. Unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, they're in an interim site at the moment on South Terrace, doing a lot of outreach, and which is a good part because they're actually building the relationships they need to with agencies across the board, both metro and country. So once they do move into their established site in March next year, everything will be running. We'll have a full complement of social and emotional wellbeing staff along with the clinical staff. We'll have supported services across from clinicians, GPs, social workers, so on and so forth. Traditional healing, thank you, sorry, that's the biggest point of it too. The centre will offer traditional healing alongside mainstream supports around their wellbeing. It's important that we really reintroduce the history of traditional healers and what they actually bring to the table, because their understanding around healing from a cultural perspective actually does a lot more for them, for the individual, than any medication that they can come up with. It's important that we bring into this, I guess, narrative 60,000 years of history, because that's where the basis for our wellbeing is and lies. So the Wellbeing Centre, and being led by Rob and Sonda and Oars, have got a lot of work to do. We know that, we understand that, and the expectation from, I guess, not only within the state but across the country, being our first all-of-age mental health and wellbeing service, is going to be huge. But I think they're up to the fight, and actually we will find some very good outcomes for it. So thank you very much.